Hello everyone, and welcome to the fifth study session of the AWS Cloud Security User Group for West Africa. So we're glad to be here with you today in the Exam Readiness Bootcamp session. So as always, I have with me the man, the myth, the legend himself, and the bearded man himself, Mr. Frank Osen. How you doing, man?
I'm good. Good evening. Good day. Hello,
Yeah.
everyone.
Oh, awesome. How's your week been? Has it been a busy week for you? It's actually like the week just started today, right? But how was your weekend, I should say?
Yes, my weekend was packed. Uh, from business to family to personal errands and stuff. So
Awesome. No Owambe for you again.
there actually was. There actually was. I had a lot of Uwambe, not the general Uwambe. We had a get together in my house, um,
Okay.
and then yesterday we went to the beach. Me and my
Nice.
siblings.
Yeah. Which
Yes,
beach is
so it
that?
was a
Is it
bit.
the main bar beach in Lagos, or is there a different beach?
Nobody really goes to Bar Beach anymore. We
Oh,
went to Oni.
really?
Nobody really goes to Bar Beach anymore. That's like 1997 or
Oh my
1995.
God.
So you,
Out
even
of
the
touch
one
completely.
that was a bit, yes, the one that was a bit popular maybe as at 10 years ago, like Oniru, people hardly go there. So
Wow.
we were supposed to go to one of those private beaches because they have a lot of private ones now, and
Oh
they are
wow. As in private
meter
beach that
and
you have to pay to enter.
I think all of them you have to pay now.
Oh
That's the sad part.
wow.
All of them.
Wow.
So the more expensive, the better because you would have less crowd. You would have um, a cleaner beach and a better environment.
Yeah.
And we got there a bit late, so um, we actually switched last minute because we
Wow.
were supposed to go somewhere else and we ended up going to Oniru. We still paid, but it was very crowded and not so. It wasn't what I wanted, but it was still an outing.
very nice. That's super nice. Okay, so we're going to be doing something today in our study series. So I want to quickly get
Okay.
just because what happened so far is that we've had a lot of new members in our group, and that is so exciting. We have, I
Okay.
believe, over 120 members in the group now, and that is awesome. So we have over 120 members,
Wow.
and we expect more members to be joining on also. So one of the things
Yeah.
I just wanted to say is
I
just
think
to
I will go and
encourage. Yeah. What did you
I'll
say,
go and
Frank?
check it out
Sorry.
because I shared. I said I'll have to go and check it out because I shared to some of my old classmates. Um, I tried to encourage them to join. I don't know if any one of
Nice.
them is one of the new members, so I'll just
What
go
of
and
you
check
that
it
has
out.
joined?
See,
Yeah.
yeah,
Awesome. So what we're going to be doing today is so because we're going through like the exam readiness bootcamp, and we're
okay,
doing that for the AWS certified security specialty certification, right?
okay,
So before we get started, just a few things just to get people in the community informed. So as you know, we do have like a blog, a publication, I should say. So we do have a blog publication. So this is where we post not just useful technical information, but one of the things that we also do is we post information that could be relevant to different aspects of AWS security in West Africa. So, for example, one of the things here is that you're going to see that we had a post last week around employment uh, to work with Amazon or AWS in Nigeria and West Africa. So, because at the moment they have current 4 roles that are available. So you have the solutions architect role, senior solutions architect role, startup business development manager, and territory manager for Nigeria. So they have those 4 roles currently open at the moment. So we do encourage people to check out, the publication because you get information like that. Whenever we have information like that, we post them. So, for example, Imo posted something related to the AWS Skill Builder subscriptions and how we can get access to that and leverage that in our studies. So I highly recommend if you're a member of the AWS Cloud Security West Africa group, make sure you check out the publication. Make sure you check this out. I'll put it in the chat window. So make sure you check it out and make sure you let us know if you like the post that you're seeing, if you want to see posts of a different kind. So the other thing that I wanted to mention has to do with the certification that we're studying for. So this may be good news for you, um, Frank, because last
okay,
week, Imo and myself had a meeting with the AWS team. And this is not solid yet, but there is um, there is optimism that we might be able to get exam vouchers to give
okay,
out to key people, not to everyone. So maybe it's something that we'll only give out to people that are showing up, to give
okay,
out to key people. So we had a call with them last week. So that is going to be, so we had a call last week, and that's something that's been mentioned, and we're optimistic that we're going to be getting some vouchers. So
all right,
if you've not been joining our study session, make sure that you key in, make sure that you join because there's potential for us to get exam vouchers at the end of the series to give out, maybe not to everyone, but to a few people that we know are going to definitely be taking the exam. There's another good news, which is
okay.
as part of that
This is
conversation
Good
also.
News Monday.
Yeah, exactly. It's Good News Monday. There's another good
Let me
news
sit
that
up.
we, yeah. So we may also be getting vouchers for AWS credits. So what
Okay,
that means is instead of using, because you do have like the free tier of AWS, but instead of using your just the free tier, which there's some limitations, and instead of using like your credit card or anything, you can also leverage some of the vouchers that we may be getting. Again,
okay,
it's not something that's going to be going out to everyone. It's something that whenever we get those, we'll define the process for how those will be distributed to the community members. So I just wanted to drop those two good news before going before going on. So
Okay.
that was from the call that we had with AWS last week.
Okay.
So the exam that we're doing, like the bootcamp for, the exam is about 170 minutes. And the exam has about 65 questions that you'll be answering within 170 minutes. Now, if you do the calculation of that, what that means is that we have about 2.5 minutes per question.
Yes.
About
That's it.
2.5 minutes per question. That's quite tight if you think about it, Frank. If you think about the time that it takes you to read a question, to digest what the question is asking you, and
Yes.
then to formulate in your brain, this is what I think the answer is, and to be able to do that within 2.5 minutes, I think that you probably agree with me that you have to have practiced a lot if you're going to be able to pull that off. To be able to read something and go 2.5 minutes, read it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 options. Yeah, I think B is the answer. I'll select that. That takes a lot of practice, I think. What do you think?
Yeah, yes, it does. But I was even thinking the 170 minutes
Hmm.
was a bit scary because that 2.5 minutes sounds long for one question, and I was thinking,
Oh.
is the exam that hard? Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just me. Well, when I saw 2.5 minutes for a question, then it must be really tough.
Oh,
Or
okay. So I like what you just said now. I
I
really
don't
like
know.
what you
I
said
don't
now.
know.
The reason, because what you just said now is the reason why we're about to do what we're about to do. Because today we're going to be doing practice questions relating to the domain objectives that we covered in the past few weeks. So, in the
Okay.
past few weeks, we've been covering the domain objective of um, identity and access management. Okay, we have all the different domain objectives for the certification exam. So we have 5 domain objectives, and we've been covering the domain objectives for identity and access management. So what we're going to do is we're going to do some practice questions relating to those domain objectives. Then we're going to see how we get on. And
Okay.
also, for those that are watching us, those that are joining us, I want you to participate in this. So, Frank, you're going to see what the
Okay.
exam questions would look like when you actually go take the exam. And you see that 2.5 minutes may look long, but you see when we start the practice, you see that it's not something that actually is a long time for the types of questions that we're talking about. But any which way, for those of you that are watching us, thanks very much for joining us today. If you can put information in the chat window about where you're joining us from, that would be awesome. Also, if you're yet to join the meetup group, make sure you join that. But also make sure you participate in the question practice that we're going to be doing today. So we're going to be going through that today. So make sure you participate in it. So let's get started, Frank, with the first
All right.
question for today. First question for today. Oh, okay. So very interesting one. So let's see.
Am I being
So,
timed?
so there will be time. Yep. So thank you for bringing that
Okay.
up because I
No, no,
must
no.
stop here. I've got
I
a
didn't
timer
bring that
here.
up. I was just joking.
I've got a timer here, so we're going to be having time, and we're going to be going through that. Here's what we're going to do. So we're going to go through like some of the questions. So let me go ahead and share my screen and switch that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read out the question, and we're going to start the time, which is going to allow you and also people that are joining remotely to formulate what they think the answer is. And then we're going to review the right answer, and then we're going to explain the reason why it's the right answer. So let's get started. So here's the first question for today. A lambda function reads metadata from an S3 object. How's the metadata in a DynamoDB? The function is triggered when an object is stored within the S3 bucket. How should the lambda function be given access to the DynamoDB table? Now, I'm going to let you read the 4 answers, and then you can just put in the chat window what you think the answer is. So let me just shout out. So shout out to OG from Nigeria, thanks for joining. OG, I like that name. And then thanks for joining. Francis John Thompson from Lagos, Nigeria, also thanks for joining. Okay, so Frank, so read the question again. I'm going to start the timer of 2 minutes, and then we're going to see what the answer is. So for those that are also watching, make sure you also put what you think the answer is in the chat window. Let's see.
Okay. Covering my.
And remember, there's nothing wrong with guessing. So there's no negative marking if you're doing the exam. So if you
Okay.
guess and you guess wrong, yeah, that's it. There's no there's no need to be too concerned. You
So
can
I'm
guess if you
trying
don't know.
to minimize my screen.
Oh, I see.
My question is being blocked by the video call.
Okay, no problems at all. That's fine. So we'll review the answer. So let's let the people online participate, and then we'll just review the answer and discuss it together. So, okay, let me go ahead and bring up the timer. So I can see we have some answers coming in. So OG says, I think it's D. Frank says, I think it's D. Okay, so we have D. 2 people going for D. And if I don't see any other answers, I think I'll just go ahead and stop the timer, and then I'll go ahead and review the answer. So, okay, so let's go ahead and review the answer. So the answer in this particular case is D. So well done, OG, and well done, Frank. The answer is D. So what is this asking us about, Frank? Just to quickly discuss what is asking us about and why D is the answer very quickly. So here we have a Lambda function. A Lambda function is a service on AWS that allows us to run small pieces of code. So you just want to run a small piece of code, you can put it as a Lambda function, right? So now you have your Lambda function, I'll just call that L. So it needs to be able to read metadata from an S3 object. S3 is a service in AWS that you can use to store data. So you can store data in S3, and what the data you store will be S3, will be objects in S3. So in this particular case, you want function to be triggered whenever an object is stored within the S3 bucket. So what that means is whenever someone stores a new object in S3, you want to run this piece of code in response. So whenever there's a new object, run this code. Somebody adds a new object, run this code that exists here in response to that. Okay. So, no, I'm live on YouTube, not now, please. Thank you. So it says, how should the Lambda function be given access to the DynamoDB table? So first option says create a VPC endpoint for DynamoDB within the VPC. So that doesn't help in terms of giving access. So that's out. Create a resource policy that grants the Lambda function permission to write to the DynamoDB table. So in this particular case, using a resource policy would not really help also in this particular case. So creating an IAM user with permissions to the DynamoDB table, store an access key for that user in the Lambda environment variables. That is going to work, but that is not a good answer. So that's one of the things to also keep in mind when you're doing the exam, Frank, is that there may be something that could be right, it's going to work, but you may have 2 answers that will be they'll work. But one of them is not a good answer because it's not best practice. So knowing what the best practices are important. And that's why as we go through this study series, we'll be talking about best practices. So that would work, but that's not a good practice. So that is out. In this particular case, we can create a role, which is create a service role. You give that role permissions to the table. So in this particular case, this is going to be writing data to a DynamoDB table, which I'll just call D. You create a role in IAM. You give that role permissions to the DynamoDB table, and then you associate that with the Lambda function. So excellent. So now, what do you think in the first question, Frank? Do you think 2.5 minutes is too long to read all of these, read all of the options, and formulate your answer? Do you think 2.5 minutes is too long?
No, it's not.
Yeah. So okay. Let's go to the next question here. So next question. This one is fairly straightforward. So let's see. So let's bring up the timer while I read this. So it says your company has defined privileged users for their AWS account. These users are administrators for key resources defined in the company. There is now a mandate to enhance the security authentication for these users. How can this be accomplished? So you have four answers there. What do you think is the right answer? So let the people that are joining us online tell us what they think is the right answer.
Okay.
So let's see. So I can see Raman asked the question. So let me bring up Raman's question while we go to that. So Raman says, while others are looking at the answers, so keep your eye focused on giving the answers also. So Raman says, do we have a group like Discord study group? I want to join. Also, can we have access to the slides after the session? So no, we do not have a Discord study group. However, we have like a WhatsApp group. We have a LinkedIn group. We have a meetup group, which is where we post all our events. So, but a Discord study group will also be a good thing. I'm not sure, like, if that has any other value that other than for people that don't use WhatsApp. So, and actually, we do have our other Oga online. So we have Imo online. So I'll bring Imo. If Imo is okay, I'll bring him online for a few seconds, for a few minutes later. We'll answer this and we'll bring Imo online. So, okay, hopefully that answers your question, Raman. So we don't have yet, but we do have a WhatsApp group, we have a Meetup group, we have a LinkedIn group. So we have two answers yet. So Frank says answer is A. Let's see. OG says answer is A. Jumit says the answer is A. So let's go ahead and review the answer for this one. And the answer is A. People
Wow.
are doing well, right? These are
Yeah.
experts that we have on the call, right? So let's see. So your company has defined privileged access users. So there is a mandate to enhance the security authentication. So one of the best practices to enhance security authentication is to enable MFA, right? So you enable MFA for the user. So enabling versioning for the user account, that's not even something that's possible. Accidental deletion, that's not going to enhance security authentication. Disable root access for the users, that doesn't really mean anything. So, and this is one of the other things that you see, Frank, is that you see some questions are more complex than other questions. So you can also, like, like this one, you will probably be able to answer this one within 1 minute, right? However, you can then move some of your time around to some of the other complex questions. So just keep that in mind. Okay. So
Yes.
we're going to go to the next question. But before we do that, let me quickly bring our guy himself, Mr. Imo. How are you doing? Your mic is muted. I think you're saying something, but your mic is muted.
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm very happy to be online today.
Yeah. So we have a session with you tomorrow, right? You have a special session with us tomorrow. Do you want
Yes, yes,
to
yes.
just let us know what will you be talking about tomorrow in your special session? Just
Okay,
give us a quick
tomorrow at
overview.
least a quick overview will be to look at how we can protect against DDoS attack at using some of the key security services in AWS. And such will be like we'll look at how you can use the cloud front and also the AWS web application firewall and AWS Shield Advanced and all that. So at the end of the day, the participant will get to understand because this is going to cover a kind of a very big area in the examination, a very big domain under the infrastructure security, and I believe it will really add value to learners. That is what we're going
Awesome.
to talk
I'm
about.
looking forward to it. I think you'll be awesome. Before you
Okay.
joined, I also gave the good news and I said we both had a call with AWS last week, and
Yeah.
potentially we may be getting exam vouchers, or
Yeah.
potentially, Brenda, you're live on YouTube, just so you know. Potentially we may be getting exam vouchers, and potentially we may be getting some AWS credits. So I just
Yes.
mentioned that. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, that is good. That's fine. You're on
Yeah. Yeah.
point.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much. So we'll go ahead with
You're
the next
welcome.
question. Thanks very much, Simon. Yeah, okay. So So next question, let's go to the next question. So here is one of those longer questions, Frank. So let's see. So let's bring out the timer. I'll give 3 minutes for this one because it has a lot more things to read. So I'll give 3 minutes and let's start the timer. So let's see. A security team is creating a response plan in the event an employee executes unauthorized actions on AWS infrastructure. They want to include steps to determine if the employee's IAM permissions changed as part of the incident. What steps should the team document in the plan? So read the 4 options and let us know what you think the answer is. So in this particular case, if a user execute unauthorized actions on AWS, you want to determine if somebody has changed the permissions of a user. How can you track permission change? Is what the question is asking. So I'll let people get on with that. So what do you think? How many minutes do you think is even going to take to read all these options, Frank?
4 minutes.
So let me see. So while people are reading that, so Emmanuel Chukwemeka said, thanks guys, this is great. Thanks very much for that, Emmanuel. Emmanuel also said, I'm prepping for the practitioner exam next month, so a free voucher will be awesome. So just to mention, Emmanuel, it's something that we're in conversation with AWS. We're optimistic that we'll be able to get exam vouchers. However, we're not sure how quickly that will be. So I'm not sure when you have your exam, planned for. Maybe the voucher may be useful afterwards, like maybe after your practitioner exam. So, okay, let's see the options. So Emmanuel says C. OG says C. OG has always been right, so I'll not go against OG's answer. It's been right in the past 2 questions. Adetoye says C, and Malik says C. So let's go ahead and, we have a different answer here. Frank says the answer is D. So let's go ahead and review what the answer is and see.
That's not me, by the way.
One. That is Frank. Yeah, that's Frank John Thompson. So let's see. The answer in this particular case, let's see. Oh, okay. Let me see. Sorry, apologies. Let me see that. Oh. The answer is A. So, so the answer is A. So this is, let's go through this one then. So what is the question asking us? Let's see what the question is asking us. The question says, the security team is creating a response plan in the event an employee executes unauthorized actions on AWS infrastructure. So this is just information. This is not asking you any question. The question is, the team wants to include steps to determine if the employee's permission has changed as part of the incident. So in other words, they want to be able to track and say, here is a user identity in IAM. I want to be able to check as the permissions for these users, has that changed. The service that we use in AWS for tracking configuration is a service called AWS Config. In this case, CloudTrail is not going to, we could look at CloudTrail to look at the logs to find out if anything has changed. But is that the best way to do this? Remember that when you're doing these exam questions, or when you're doing these exams, you may have more than one correct answer. We are meant to pick the ones that are the one that aligns with best practice if you have more than one correct answer. So even though you could go be searching the logs to try to determine what has changed, you can use AWS config, and I'll go ahead and I'll bring up the document on that very quickly. So let me bring up the document on that. We can use AWS config to track that in a much more easier way. So let me bring out my documents. So AWS config IAM. So let me bring that now. So let's bring this up. So let me go ahead and bring up like images to see if I can show you an example of this. So let's go to IAM permission change. So let me bring up this document in the chat window, how to record and govern your IAM resource configuration using AWS config. So you can go ahead and you can implement AWS config and you can record changes to IAM objects. So that way, if IAM object changes, you're going to be able to see that in AWS config that has changed. So I'll put this in the chat window for people to also have a look at. So that is the answer. So the answer to one is A. So let's go to the next question. So next question is this one. So let me bring up the timer again. So your development team has started using AWS resources for, let me set the timer first of all. Oh. Okay, sorry. Apologies. The timer just went off. So I need to reopen the timer. Yeah, sorry about that. Let me bring up the timer again very quickly. Here we go. Okay, let's bring that up. And we have 2 minutes. So let's start that. Okay, your development team has started using AWS resources for development purposes. The AWS account has just been created. Your IT security team is worried about possible leakage of keys. What is the first level of measure that should be taken to protect the AWS account? So OG already read through that, and OG thinks the answer is A. So let's see if we get the answers. So read the options and let us know what you think the answer is. So Frank, so what's the name of the beach that you went to again? What's the name of that beach?
It was Oniru.
Oniro. Ah, so it's a really nice
Oniru
one. It's
Beach.
yeah. Okay.
No, I think there are other better ones.
Ah,
We went there because of time.
yeah,
We're supposed to get there earlier, and the weather was not so clear,
yeah,
so we had to go to something closer.
yeah. So it's still raining, is it? It's still raining season.
It stopped for a while, just yesterday and today. Yesterday was very cloudy,
Ah,
so we're scared it was going to rain.
yep.
And because we're late, we just went to that one.
Wow.
But it rained today. I think it's still raining now,
Yeah.
or it's drizzling. It's drizzling.
Wow. You know that's a real blessing. What's the name? You know that in UK, they've announced drought in UK.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
So because it's so hot, I'm sweating as I'm talking right now. I'm not sure you can if you can see, but I'm sweating. But the weather has been so hot that the government has announced drought. Let me go ahead and bring that up. So UK. So the government has announced like a drought, and one of the things is that they've banned people from watering their flowers using the hose. So
Okay.
yeah.
So how are they supposed to
So
water it?
So no, you can use like the garden stuff, but then even that one may, depending on um, how much that is. So because of the heat that's been going on, they've declared droughts across multiple parts of the country. So it's crazy, right? Because essentially, like water sources are drying up and all those kind of stuff. But anyways, so you're having rain. That's good. Because of the Eddie. So we have different answers here. So we have some A from OG, A from Frank John Thompson, A from Malik, and Jumiet says D. And Emmanuel says, let's see. Emmanuel says, yes, since there's a suspicion about the leakage of keys, I think it's best to delete keys, so I will go with A. So that is indeed the right answer. So the right answer in this case is A. So, and Emmanuel explained it perfectly. The worry that they have is leakage of keys. So So because the concern is about leakage of keys, then look for anywhere that you're using key-based authentication that you can delete or you can disable and get rid of that. So A would be the answer for that. So well done, everyone. So let's see the next question. So this one is a bit of a complex one. You need to look at it a bit slowly. And I'll give a few more minutes for this one so you can have a look and see what you think the answer is. So let's bring up the timer. I'll give about 4 minutes for this one. And let's see what we all think the answer is for this one. So 4 minutes. So what's the question? Here's the question. It says you're designing a custom IAM policy that will allow users to list buckets in S3 only if they are MFA authenticated. Which of the following would best match this requirement? So here you have 4 policies. One of them matches the requirements that you've been given. Which one of them matches those requirements? So you have about 4 minutes to go through the options and select your answer. Remember that when you're doing the exam, you have roughly 2.5 minutes per question. So we have to practice and make sure that we're ready when we get to the exam hall, so that we're not going to be looking back and forth. We're clear about what we need to do. So let's see. Yeah. Oh, by the way, one of the things that we posted, Frank, one of the things that we posted in the community is there was an analysis that was done by a risk management organization. So I'll bring it up after this question. So they did an analysis on different continents in the world and the major risk that a lot of businesses are facing in different regions in the world. And can you guess what the number one risk is for Middle East and Africa in terms of the risk that businesses are facing? That if businesses don't handle this risk, it could bring the business down, that the business cannot function. What do you think is number one? So they had like a list of
I'll
10. They
say
have like, sorry?
I'll say cloud security because most businesses in Nigeria, let me not say Africa, don't really pay attention to their cloud security. They, they don't really buy packages or have so much knowledge, and those that even have are not really willing to pay for maybe a solid service or
Hmm,
someone that would look at that properly. So they
hmm,
try to manage costs.
yeah.
Maybe for high institutions like banks,
Hmm.
I can't really say about the federal government or government.
Yeah.
So maybe banks and even the so-called banks. I heard something recently where most of their staff actually left. I
Hmm,
think for a
hmm,
bank, a particular bank.
yeah.
And you can imagine what that would be if you have people managing your security and all of them just resign almost immediately.
Hmm,
So I think their app was misbehaving for a
hmm,
while.
hmm.
So I'll say security. I don't know what is it
we'll,
again.
we'll see. We'll see after this one. So they have a list of 10 things, but that includes not just in tech, it also includes things like pandemic, supply chain. So because they're not like just a tech analysis, they analyze the risk, and then they listed
Okay.
and says, yeah, the top 10 risk facing businesses in this region. So we'll see that after this. But let's see, we have a few answers here. So we have Malik saying D, we have Adekweju saying A, we have Frank John saying B. That's 3 different answers already. And we have OG saying A. So let's review what the answer is. So the answer to this one is, drum roll, it's A. So A is the answer to this one. And why is A the answer to this one? let me bring up like the zoom button to zoom in a bit so I can sort of point why A is the answer to this one. So if you have a look at this policy, the first policy, if you look at, let's have a look at the question again first. The question says you want users to be able to list buckets in S3 if only if they are MFA authenticated. So that's the requirement. So let's look at the first one. So the first one says the action, the permission says you're given permission to list all the buckets. So that matches this requirement of being able to list buckets because you have that permission listed there. And let's see the condition that's been associated. So the condition, whenever you're using the condition elements in an IAM policy, you specify the Boolean, you specify Boolean subset when you're defining like a condition like this. And in this case, you're saying if AWS multi-factor authentication present equals to true, then allow this permission. So that's why A is the answer. B is not the answer because the condition is evaluating and saying false. In other words, what B is evaluating is saying if multi-factor authentication is not present, then allow these permissions. So that's why B is not the answer. C is not the answer because the syntax for the condition is wrong, so it doesn't have Boolean defined. So that syntax is not the correct syntax, so that is wrong. And D is also not the answer because that is also wrong in terms of the syntax that's been written in. So the answer to this one is A. So well done to everyone. So let me go to show you what I was talking about with Frank about the top risks that facing businesses in Africa. So there was a post that went up on the community publication today, I believe. Did it go up today already? Yeah, I believe it went up today already. So if you go to the community's Medium page, so let's bring that up. And if you go to this post, why you need to be skilled in AWS cloud security. So, and if you have a look at the analysis, so by the way, I have a link here to the report. So it's a report by risk experts. And what the report looked into was to look at different regions in the world and what are the risks that the businesses are facing. So for example, if you look at Europe, number one risk that facing businesses is cyber incidents. So whenever people are talking about remote work and you're looking to work with like maybe European organizations, be aware that the number one risk that the businesses are facing has to do with cybersecurity or cyber incidents. So that was number one last year, and it's still number one this year. So other ones has to do with supply chain, which was number 2 last year, still number 2 this year. So, but that is Europe. If you look at the numbers for Africa, Middle East and Africa, the number one challenge is cyber incidents. So that's the number one challenge for businesses in Africa and Middle East. And that went up from number 3. So it was number 3 last year, but it's number 1 this year. And part of the reason for that is because of the pandemic. A lot more businesses are relying on being online, their presence online, the online marketplace for income, for revenue. So if something happens that takes out their ability to connect, it takes out the business essentially. It takes out a major part of their revenue. So that is now number 1 for Middle East and Africa. Number 2 has to do with supply chain issues. Number 3 has to do with pandemic outbreak. Number 4 has to do with political risk and violence. Even though I know that a lot of people will argue and say number 1 is definitely not cyber security in Nigeria. Number 1 is number 4. But anyways, but that is their own analysis. I'm not sure how accurate it is, but hopefully that gives you like the point we're talking about, Frank. Yeah. So let's go back to the questions. So you're all doing very well. So let's see. We only have a few more questions to go for today. So let's see how we can do. So here is the next question, and let's set the timer to this one for 3 minutes, and let's start. Oh, we did this one already. Yes, we did this one already. Yeah, we did this one already, so apologies. Skip this one. We did it already. So let's go to the other one. So let's go to this one. Apologies for that. So let's do this one. Okay, so let's start. An application running on EC2 instances must use a username and password to access a database. The developer has stored those secrets in the SSM parameter store with type secure string using the customer managed KMS CMK. Which combination of configuration steps will allow the application to access the secrets via the API? Select two answers from the options below. So read the options below. You have two answers to select and put your answers in the chat window. So Frank, do you cook? Are you a good cook? Or would you consider yourself a good cook?
Yes.
Would all let me ask the other side of that. Will others consider you to be a good cook?
I think others would consider me better than I would consider myself a good cook.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I had a colleague when I was in university, like that. He considers himself to be a good cook, but all of us thinks otherwise. But he believes that he's a good cook. But anyway, which way? So, which foods which dishes do you think like you're like an expert in, like you cook the most? Please don't say Indomie.
No, no, I don't even like Indomie.
Okay.
um, I like making sauce.
Sauce. Oh wow.
Yeah, so I
Like
like
as in
spice.
proper soup or just sauce
Yeah, I make I make
for
I make I make proper soups, but I
nice.
like spicy foods. So
Ah,
I like
nice.
anything spicy.
Spicy. Yep.
Yes, like we had a get together on Saturday.
Yeah.
We made pepper soup and
Yeah. Oh.
fried rice.
Yep.
Yeah. So
So
and I, I'm not just, I won't say I'm not just a good cook, but because of my incline, my what's the word now?
your
Because of,
inclination.
yes, I don't know if that's the right word, but because I like to use my hands
Mm,
and I'm more of a go person,
mm,
I go to the market a lot, or
mm.
I'm good at shopping. So maybe
Ah,
because of my business too, or that's what made me passionate about doing business and shopping for the best items for people. Um,
nice.
so even in my house, I'm the one that goes to market. My sisters, my
Nice.
mom doesn't go to market, so I just go to
Nice.
the market for them whenever I'm around.
That's awesome, man. That's super, super awesome. You're already doing more than what a lot of us can do.
So I don't just cook the food; I source for the ingredients
Yeah,
and the perfect items I think I need, and then I make it.
that's awesome, man. That's awesome. You're already doing way more than I can do when it comes to cooking.
Good.
No, I'm not like I used to maybe like a while ago when I was studying like in university like in Nigeria, I do like all my cooking and all this stuff. But like these days, like I think I have like a mindset that's not the best because in my mind I'm thinking, wow, this is going to take me how many hours to prepare? And then I've got to spend how many more minutes to clean up and do all this tidying. I'm like, I could be studying for half AWS exam.
Yeah.
I'm like,
So that's why, if possible, you can buy in bulk whenever you go,
yeah.
and maybe prepare and
Mm,
store properly. That way, you don't have to cook all the. I don't like cooking all the time, as much as people say I'm a good cook or
mm,
whatever. I don't like
yeah.
cooking all the time. Or you have to cook every day, or you have to cook every 2 days. If I can cook everything, like when I was in school, I would go to market on Saturdays
Mm,
and prepare my meal for the week. So I'll make the soups, I'll make the stew, I'll make, if I'm making sauce, if I'm making then maybe whatever I'm eating that weekend. So what I will just do during the weekend after making all that is maybe make porridge, make beans, make, then I still have stew, I still have soup, I still have maybe one more option for
mm,
during the week, and then I just refrigerate.
mm.
So during the week I don't have to cook every day. I just,
Yep.
whenever I get back from class, I rest in the evenings, I microwave what I want,
Yep.
and I'm good. In the
That's
mornings, I
good.
can't eat in the
Yeah.
mornings, but
Yeah.
I'm covered
Yeah.
because I
That's
have
really
a
good.
very sensitive stomach again. So if I
Yeah.
eat anything outside, I might
Mm.
be
Yeah.
in
I know what you
discomfort
mean.
later.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean. Okay, so we have a few answers here. So we have C and D from Malik, C and D from Frank. So and OG says D and E. So let's see what the answer is. So the first answer is C. And the next answer is D. So the answer is C and D. So what is the question asking us? It's saying that you have an EC2 instance and that's using a username and password to access a database. So you have an application running on that EC2 instance. So the developer has stored those secrets in the SSM parameter. So SSM parameter store. So with secure string, and then they're using KMS customer managed key to encrypt it, which combination of configuration steps allow the application to access the secret via the API. So in this particular case, this app running on EC2 needs to be able to, first of all, access the customer managed key, or needs to be able to use the customer managed key in KMS to decrypt so customer managed key in KMS to decrypt the secrets that's stored and encrypted in SSM. So the first permission is it needs permission to be able to read that secret in SSM. The next permission that it needs is it needs permission to be able to use this key to decrypt that secret. So that is why it needs the KMS decrypt permission so that it can use that key to decrypt that secret. So that's why these two are the answers. So the first one, EC2 role as a trusted service, that doesn't help in this case. B, add permission to use the KMS key um, to decrypt to the SSM service role. So you can see in this particular case, it wants you to add that permission to the SSM service role. So, but that's not what you want to do. You're not adding the permission to SSM. You're adding that permission to the app to be able to do that. And E, add the SSM service as a trusted service to the EC2 instance. Doesn't help with that. So the answer here is C and D. So here is the final question for today, and then we'll round up for today. And remember that tomorrow, same time tomorrow, so we only have this study session 1 hour, 2 days a week. The reason why we stick to the time and we pick 1 hour is we don't want to take a lot of your time. Just 1 hour is short enough to be able to come, refresh your knowledge, get prepared for the exam, maybe get some more useful information, faxes, some exam questions, and then just 1 hour, like 2 times a week. So, and we keep to the time strictly. So tomorrow we have Imo, who will be speaking, who will start taking us into the domain objective of infrastructure security. So make sure you join that tomorrow. It's going to be interesting. So here's the final question that we're going to be treating today. And by the way, here's an example of a policy that you can use for this question. So in this particular policy, you have permission to get the parameter in SSM, and you're giving that permission to you're giving that permission, and the other permission that you're giving is permission to use the KMS key to decrypt the secret in SSM. So that's sort of like those two permissions that you're doing. So final question for today. Final question. So let's bring up the timer very quickly. So we're going to be given 3 minutes for the timer for this one also. Okay, so let's go ahead and start that. Okay, you are creating a policy to allow users to have the ability to access objects in a bucket called app buckets. You define the below custom bucket policy as follows. So you define the policy that you have on the right-hand side. When you try to apply the policy, you get an error that says action does not apply to any resources in a statement. What should you do to rectify the error? So look at the options, look at the policy. Why are you getting an error message when you try to apply this policy? So this is the final question for today. So one of the things that you see here, Frank, is that you see that you have a mix of questions. Some of them, you can see you have other things that you have to go read, not just the question. You have to go read this policy to try to see what this policy is defining and then use that as part of the question. Some of them are more straightforward, right? I'll say majority of them would be something like this. So that's the reason why I highly recommend, if you're planning to do the exam, make sure that you practice, so that when
So
you are in that exam hall. So carry on, Frank.
so where do we get to practice? Like, how do I get access to these questions when I want to practice?
So for example, if you go, so good question. I don't want to take this off the screen, but I'll show you it afterwards. Oh, did the lights just go off where you are, Frank?
Yes.
Oh no, okay. Anyway, so yeah, so I'll show you like AWS. If you go to like the security specialty page, they do have um they do have like a sample stuff there, like some sample questions that you can use on the AWS page. So you can, if you have access to platforms like Udemy, for example. So like some
Okay.
publishers on Udemy also have. So someone's platforms like WizLabs also have test questions that you can use. So those are examples. So, and you said about, I think someone mentioned about sharing this slide. So what we're also going to do is we're going to share this slides, but we're only going to share this slide for those that are part of the community. So OG, yeah, look at OG's comment, Frank. Niger. It's like, yes, so it's Niger. It's Niger. A country full of talents. That's anyways. God bless us. Okay, so let's see the answer for the final question. So we have a few answers here. So Frank John says B. OG says B also. But let's look at what the answer is. Is the answer to this B? The answer is not B. The answer is C. C is the answer for this. So let's have a quick look at why C is the answer for this. And Malik said C after I said C. I'm not sure I'm going to accept your answer, Malik. I'm not sure I'm going to accept your answer, Malik, because the C came in after I said C. So let me go back to this one. So let me show why C is the answer for this one. So let me bring up the Zoom option. So if you look at this policy, it says when you apply this policy, you get an error message. This policy is given permission to get an object in S3. It's also given permission to get an object version in S3. However, the resource that is specified here does not specify an object. The resource specifies the service, the bucket, not the object. Because when you're talking about Amazon S3, it is a service that we can use to store data. We have the bucket, which is the service. And within the bucket, we can have our objects. So, but in this particular case, the permission that's applied is applied to the object, but the resource that's specifying is specifying the bucket. So that's why you're getting this error message. So to fix that, you need to specify either an object name in front of the bucket, or in this particular case, it's using the wildcard of star to say, I'm applying this permission to all the objects in this bucket. So the answer is C. So, ladies and gentlemen, thanks very much for joining Frank and myself today. Really, really appreciate you taking the time to brush up your knowledge on AWS security. So remember, we have this study session 2 times every week. OG said, Malik said it before. Oh, did you see before that I missed? Okay. Sorry, Malik. Oh, sorry. Apologies. I didn't see it. Sorry. Sorry, sorry, Malik. I didn't see it. I thought that your answer came in after I showed C. So I didn't see that you said C if I showed it. Okay. So thanks very much, everyone, for joining us. Remember that we continue tomorrow, 6 to 7. Tomorrow, we're going to get into the domain objective of infrastructure security. Immo will be covering that. As always, Frank and myself will also be online. So see you all tomorrow. Anything you want to say, Frank, before we close today's session?
Have a good day, everybody. It
Yeah.
was nice to actually experience the questions. Before now, I always wondered what the questions looks like and how well I would do. And looking at this, I know that I have to prepare some more because it's not just a walk in the park where I initially said two 2 minutes 30 seconds was quite long, but
Yeah.
now it looks like I might actually need more time for it. So we we the new I won't say we because I'm guessing we have some professionals here like
Yeah.
Malika and more. So for those that are looking forward to writing the exams, I think that practicing the questions would really be a good idea.
Yeah, I
So
completely agree. I
thank
completely
you.
agree with that, Frank. Yeah, and you can see like on this page, for example, you can see you can download some sample questions here on the
Yeah.
page. So I'll put that in the chat window also. You can download some sample questions that you can also use and leverage. Okay, so thanks very much, everyone. See you tomorrow. Have a lovely rest of the evening. Frank, go put on your generating sets and get everything
Yeah.
going.
I will. I will.
Yeah.